All right, diving right in today. We're taking a close look at iKeyMonitor. It's a parental control app.
Huh?
Yeah, and we've gathered a whole bunch of info on this thing from their own website, of course,
Of course.
to what reviewers are saying, the independent
Let's
folks.
take those out.
Definitely. And what parents themselves are saying, too, on those review sites. Oh, and we even threw in a competitor for comparison, XRXCS.
Interesting.
Yeah, should give us a good picture, right? So if you're a parent and thinking about this kind of app, especially if you're thinking, is this for me?
Big question.
Absolutely. Well, stick with us. We'll break it all down.
It's smart to do your homework on these things,
Sure.
before you just jump in.
For sure.
Parental control apps are getting a lot of attention these days.
Right.
And there are some real reasons for that. Like, one stat we saw said 75% of kids are sharing personal info online.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, makes you think, right? That many young people out there maybe not realizing the risks.
Okay, so let's get specific. iKeyMonitor, this app we're deep diving into. They built it for both Android and Apple devices, so phones, tablets, the whole deal.
Right.
But there's a twist with Apple. You've got to jailbreak to get all the features working.
Ah, yeah. That can be a bit of a hurdle for some folks.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back to that whole jailbreaking thing later. But first, what does this iKeyMonitor even do?
Well, they really push the monitoring angle. And to be fair, it does have some pretty powerful monitoring features.
Like what? Give us the highlights.
Well, one of the big ones that jumps out is keystroke logging.
Keystroke logging.
Yeah, think of it this way. Everything typed on that device, recorded. Every message, web search, even things they delete.
No way.
Yeah. And it can even capture passwords, which, opens up a whole other can of terms about how much access is too much.
Whoa, that IKEA is intense. Like you're seeing literally everything your kid types.
Pretty much. And it doesn't stop there.
Oh.
Social media is in the mix, too.
Oh, I bet. So they've got Facebook, Instagram, all that.
Yeah. Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Snapchat, even dating apps like Tinder.
Tinder. Wow. Okay. Going all out.
iKeyMonitor keeps an eye on all those conversations. And then they've got this call recording add-on, too. So not just who your kid calls or gets called by, but you can actually listen to the conversations.
I mean, on one hand, I get it. Some parents are really worried about online dangers, Like, are they talking to strangers? Are they getting into something they shouldn't?
It's a real concern these days.
Absolutely. But on the other hand, it feels like it could get too intrusive really fast, even if you have the best intentions as a parent.
Yeah, you're hitting on something important there, this whole idea of parental control. It's about finding that balance. Safety for your kid, but also respecting their privacy.
Right. It's not always a simple answer.
Definitely not. It's a conversation to have, for sure.
Okay, so we've got keystrokes, we've got social media, we've got calls. I mean, it sounds like iKeyMonitor is tracking everything but where they're physically going.
Oh, they have that too. Yep. GPS tracking. And they even have this thing called geofencing, where you can set up like virtual boundaries on a map.
Ah, I've heard of that.
So if your kid leaves school during the day or isn't home when they should be, you get an alert.
Clever, like a virtual leash for their phone.
Exactly.
So you'd think, okay, ultimate monitoring tool, right. But going through the reviews, a lot of parents are saying the app itself is a pain to use.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the user-friendliness aspect.
Exactly. Seems like the layout's confusing, settings are all over the place.
It's like if you're going to give parents this tech to help them out, it shouldn't add to their stress,
100%. It's got to be easy to use, even for parents who aren't super techy.
Totally agree. An app like this needs to be intuitive.
Okay, so monitoring, check. Complicated to use, check. But now for the practical stuff, how much does this all cost?
Well, like a lot of apps these days, they've got a free version,
Okay.
but it's limited. To really unlock all the monitoring features, you're looking at a paid plan.
And those probably aren't cheap, right? Especially since they've got these separate plans for like social media monitoring or call recording, like you were saying.
You're on the right track. The pricing can be a bit of a maze, to be honest.
Maze is a good word.
You can pick and choose what you need, which sounds good in theory. But each license, it only covers one device. So if you've got a few kids, each with their own phone or tablet, it adds up fast.
Oof. Yeah, multiple kids, multiple devices, multiple monthly fees.
Exactly. And that can put a serious dent in the budget.
All right, so we can't avoid the elephant in the room any longer. This jailbreaking thing for Apple devices.
Right. Yeah.
I'm guessing it's not just a quick click and you're done.
It's a bit more involved than that.
Yeah.
Basically, jailbreaking lets you bypass all the restrictions Apple puts on its iPhones and iPads.
Restriction.
Yeah, like what apps you can install, what changes you can make. It's all very controlled.
Okay.
So jailbreaking gives you more freedom, more control, but it comes with risks too.
Such as,
Well, those restrictions are there for a reason, mostly security. They're meant to keep your device safe and running smoothly.
makes sense.
But when you jailbreak, you're kind of removing those safety nets.
Oh.
It makes the device more vulnerable to malware, like those digital viruses.
So you're trying to make it more functional with parental controls, but you might be making it less secure overall.
It's a trade-off, yeah. And there's the warranty issue too.
The warranty.
Yeah. Jailbreaking voids Apple's warranty. So if something goes wrong because of the jailbreak, Apple's not going to fix it for you.
Oh, that's not good.
Plus, jailbreaking itself, sometimes it can cause the device to become unstable or slow down.
Yikes. That's a lot to think about. I mean, for parents who are concerned about safety but also don't want to mess up their kid's phone, it's a tough call.
Yeah, it definitely raises questions about, is it worth the potential downsides?
Right. Powerful features, but at what cost?
Exactly. You really have to weigh the pros and cons carefully with this one.
All right, so far we've got this image of iKeyMonitor, super powerful monitoring, maybe not so user-friendly, and that whole jailbreaking thing looming over Apple users. Not exactly a simple choice.
It definitely highlights how important it is to really understand what you're getting into with these parental control apps. There's a lot to consider.
Sure, for sure.
And it's not just about the tech itself, but like we were saying before, the whole family dynamic, the trust, the communication, it's all connected.
Couldn't agree more.
But hey, speaking of choices, didn't we also look at an alternative to iKeyMonitor?
We did. XRXCS, right?
Yeah, and it tackles a few of those issues we've been talking about.
Interesting. All right, tell us more.
Well, for one, they've really focused on making it easy to use.
That's a good start.
Right. Parents who've tried both, they generally say XRXCS is way simpler to navigate, figure out the settings, all that.
Okay, so less of a headache right off the bat.
Exactly. And the big one, you don't need to jailbreak Apple devices to get all the features.
Oh, wow. That alone is probably a huge selling point for some parents.
I'd say so. But it gets better. XRCS actually includes some things iKeyMonitor doesn't, like screen time tracking.
Screen time, so you can see how long they're on certain apps, websites.
Yep. It's super useful for managing, overall digital habits.
I can see that. It's more about healthy use, not just what are they doing, but how much are they doing?
Right. It's a different approach.
And how about the cost? Any better on that front?
Well, generally speaking, XRXES is more affordable.
Okay.
Their pricing structure is less complicated, and it doesn't hit your wallet as hard, especially with multiple kids.
So multiple kids, no jailbreaking, easier to use, cheaper. It almost sounds too good to be true. Is there a catch?
There's a key difference, yeah. Well, XRXES gives you good control over, app use, websites, screen time. It doesn't go as deep into surveillance as iKeyMonitor.
Okay, so no keystroke logging, no reading every social media message.
Exactly. It's really about what you, as a parent, want to prioritize.
So it's not that one's better overall, but which one fits your family style, their needs.
Precisely. Some parents, they really want to know every detail of what their kid's doing online.
I can see that.
Others, they're more focused on setting healthy boundaries, encouraging responsible use.
It's a personal choice, for sure. All right, so two very different approaches here. iKeyMonitor, deep into the monitoring. XRXES, more about guiding good habits.
A good way to put it, hopefully our listeners are starting to get a sense of which way they lean, what's important to them.
Definitely. But we've got to go beyond just the company side of things, right? What are actual parents saying?
You're right. Real-world experience matters. We checked out reviews on Trustpilot and Reddit. Good mix of opinions there about iKeyMonitor.
Get on us. What are they saying?
Well, some folks are singing its praises. They love the powerful features, how effective it is at keeping tabs on their kids' online stuff.
They feel like it's working, keeping their kids safer.
Exactly. That peace of mind is what they're looking for.
Makes sense. The internet can be a scary place, especially when you've got kids who might not see the dangers.
It's a valid worry, for sure.
But I'm guessing not all the reviews were glowing.
Not quite. We saw a fair amount of complaints, too, mainly about how complicated the app is to use.
There's that usability issue cropping up again.
Yeah. Parents were saying things like, the instructions aren't clear, some features are hard to set up.
Frustrating.
And some even said the app didn't work reliably all the time, or it wasn't logging everything it was supposed to.
So even if it's got all the bells and whistles, if parents can't even use it properly, it's not doing much good.
Exactly. That's why these user reviews are so valuable. They give you a peek behind the curtain. Beyond the marketing hype.
The real deal.
Yep, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
It's important to remember, though, everyone's experience is different. What works for one family might not for another.
Absolutely.
So take all these reviews with a grain of salt, weigh the pros and cons, but most importantly, figure out what matters most to you as a parent.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Each family's got to find their own approach.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. iKeyMonitor. Powerful, but maybe not so user-friendly, can get pricey, and that whole jailbreaking thing if you're on Apple. Plus, mixed reviews from parents who actually used it. Definitely some food for thought.
A lot to digest, that's for sure.
But hey, good thing we have more deep dive to do, right? To really help parents make the best decision for their family.
Absolutely, more to come.
All right, so next up, we're going to dig deeper into XRXES, see how it stacks up as an alternative. And we'll explore this whole parental control thing from a different angle, not just the tech, but those important family dynamics too. Stick around.
Looking forward to it.
Me too. Should be interesting. All right, listeners, we'll be right back after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
See you in a bit.
We've got a lot more to unpack on this topic, so stay tuned. We'll be diving right back in after the break.
Back in a flash. So where were we? Yes. XRXES, this other parental control app we dug into.
The one that's supposed to be a bit easier on the brain?
Right, less of a learning curve. From what we saw, they've really put the effort into making it user-friendly.
That's a big plus, honestly. I mean, parents have enough to juggle as it is.
Tell me about it. So, yeah, people who've used both iKeyMonitor and XRXES, they generally say XRXES is way simpler.
Simpler how? Like what specifically?
Well, navigating the app, finding what you need, tweaking the settings.
So it's just more intuitive, less clicking around 5 different menus?
Exactly. And that whole jailbreaking thing we talked about, not an issue with XRXES.
Oh, wow. So even on iPhones, iPads, you get the full experience without voiding the warranty, risking security issues.
You got it. Big relief for a lot of parents, I'd bet.
For sure. Okay, so we've got ease of use, no jailbreaking. Anything else XRXES has going for it?
Actually, yeah. It's got a few features that iKeyMonitor doesn't, like screen time tracking.
Screen time, like how much time they spend on each app or website.
Yep. It's really detailed, gives you a good picture of their digital habits.
That's pretty valuable. It's not just about what they're doing online, but how much it's each.
Right. It's a different angle, more about healthy balance, I'd say.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, so no jailbreaking headache, easier to use, more features. What about the price tag? Any better there?
Generally, yes. XRXES is more affordable than iKeyMonitor.
Music to my ears. Especially if you've got multiple kids to cover.
Exactly. The pricing is just more straightforward, less of a hit to the bank account.
All right, so we've got easy to use, no jailbreaking, more features, and it's cheaper. Almost sounds too good to be true. There's got to be a catch.
Well, there is a key difference, yeah.
Oh.
XRXES, well, it gives you good control over things like which apps they use, websites they visit, how much screen time, that kind of thing. It doesn't do the deep surveillance that iKeyMonitor does.
Okay, so if you're a parent who wants to know every keystroke, read every social media message, that's not what XRXES is about.
Precisely. It's more about setting those boundaries, managing screen time, promoting responsible use.
So really, it comes down to what matters most to the parent, right? Their parenting style.
Exactly. Some parents, they feel it's important to have that granular level of detail.
See everything kind of approach.
Right. But others, they're more comfortable with a tool that helps them set limits, have those conversations with their kids about good digital habits.
It's not about one being better, but which one fits your family better.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, so we've got 2 pretty different philosophies here. iKeyMonitor, super detailed monitoring. XRXES, more about setting those healthy boundaries. Hopefully our listeners are starting to think, okay, which one of these sounds more me?
Yeah, it's good to reflect on that.
But it can't just be about what the company says, right? We got to know what real parents are saying.
Absolutely. User experience is everything. So we took a look at reviews from both Trustpilot and Reddit. And like you might expect, pretty mixed bag when it comes to iKeyMonitor.
Mixed how? Give us the good, the bad, the ugly.
All right, so starting with the positive, some parents were really happy with iKeyMonitor. They praised the powerful features, how effective it is at actually keeping them in the loop about their kids' online stuff.
They felt like it was doing its job.
Yeah, that sense of security, that's what they were after.
And honestly, I get it. The internet can be a wild place, especially for parents who are worried about, are my kids being exposed to something they shouldn't be? Are they talking to someone they shouldn't be?
It's a legitimate concern these days, for sure.
No doubt. But I'm guessing not all the reviews were sunshine and rainbows?
You're right about that. We saw a fair share of complaints, too, mostly centered around the app being too complicated.
Ah, that usability issue rearing its head again.
Yep. A lot of parents said the instructions were unclear. Figuring out the settings was a nightmare.
Frustrating when you just want something to work.
Right. And some even said the app itself wasn't reliable, like it wouldn't log everything correctly or it would glitch out.
So even if it's got all these fancy features, if you can't even use it properly, what's the point?
That's the thing with user reviews. You get that unfiltered feedback.
Yeah.
Beyond the marketing and the promises, what's the real experience like?
That's why it's so valuable to hear from actual parents who've been in the trenches, so to speak.
Exactly. It gives you a much better sense of what to expect.
But gotta remember, everyone's different, right?
Of course.
What works for one family might not work for another, so take these reviews with a grain of salt, see the trends, but ultimately, you gotta decide what's important for your family.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so big picture. We've got iKeyMonitor, powerful, but maybe complicated, pricey, and then the jailbreaking thing. XRXES, easier to use, more affordable, focuses more on those healthy habits. And we've seen what parents are saying, both good and bad. It's a lot to process.
It really is. But this is where the real deep dive begins.
Oh, yeah. Explain that.
Well, we've talked about the tech, the features, the pros and cons. But parental control, it's about way more than just an app on a phone.
It's about family, right?
Exactly. Trust, communication, setting those expectations, having those sometimes tough conversations. That's the heart of it.
So how do we connect those dots? How do we go from here's an app to here's how we actually parent in this digital age? That's what we're going to unpack next.
It's a big topic, but an important one.
Yeah.
And we've got some great insights to share based on all the research we did, so stick around.
All right, listeners, looking forward to diving into that with you. It's like giving them the keys to the car without any driving lessons, right?
Yeah, actually, and think about it. The online world, it's constantly changing.
Oh, tell me about it.
New apps pop up every day, new platforms, new challenges.
It's so hard to keep up.
Right. So we, as parents, we got to stay informed, keep learning, and adapt our approach as we go.
Makes sense. It's not like a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Definitely not. It's a constant evolution for parents and for kids.
And it's okay to admit we don't have all the answers, right?
Absolutely. I think one of the best things we can do as parents is model that. You know, that it's okay to not know everything, to ask questions, to learn alongside our kids.
That's a great point. Like, hey, I've never seen this app before, but let's figure it out together.
Exactly. It shows them that learning is a lifelong process, and it builds that trust, that open communication.
So we've talked about iKeyMonitor and XRXES, but there are tons of other parental control apps out there.
Oh, yeah, a whole bunch. And they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, different approaches.
So do your research. Don't just jump on the first one you see.
Right. Compare features, read those reviews, maybe even try out a few free trials.
Free trials are a lifesaver. Like, test drive the app before you commit.
Exactly. See if it really fits your family, your needs.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, big takeaway is that an app is just one piece of the puzzle.
It's not a magic bullet. It's not going to solve everything.
Right. The real key is that mix of tools, strategies, open communication.
Couldn't agree more.
So final thought for our listeners, as you navigate this whole digital parenting thing.
It's a journey, not a destination. There will be bumps along the road. There will be questions you don't have the answers to.
But you're not alone.
There are so many resources out there, communities, experts. Don't be afraid to reach out, ask for help, share your experiences with other parents.
It takes a village, right?
It really does. And remember, keep learning. Keep talking to your kids. Keep adapting. You've got this.
Well said. All right, everyone, that's a wrap for our deep dive into iKeyMonitor and the world of parental control apps. We hope you found this helpful, insightful, and maybe even spark some good conversations in your own families.
Thanks for joining us.
And until next time, happy diving.